session after the break. Now, this is an important session where we're talking about the key learnings and experiences of the plants who have done a lot of work in the area of O&M. Here we have three case studies given by three expert companies, including ONGC Tirupura, JSW Energy Barmer, and Lanco Anpara from Anpara in MP. So we have these three case studies now. I would request Mr. Prabhat Chandra to begin with his presentation. Mr. Chandra, you can unmute your microphone and web camera, please.
Right. Good evening, my friends. I will share my presentation just right now. I hope presentation is visible.
Yes, Mr. Chandra, you can go ahead. Anybody who would like the screen full screen, they can go with this full screen point.
Okay. Good evening, friends. I am Prabhat Chandra, working as a operational maintenance head in ONGC Tripura Power Company Limited. Basically, it is a joint venture company of ONGC, ILFS, IIF, and Government of Tripura. Basically, it is a 726 megawatt combined cycle power plant, which cater power supply to the 7 states of northern state of India. Those are Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, and Tripura. The plant configuration is basically 2 gas turbine, those are frame 9FA, each of 232 megawatt, and 2 steam turbine, that is 130 megawatt each. The plant is configured in such a manner that it can run only in the combined cycle. It can't run in the open cycle mode. Basically, this is done for the better energy utilization to get better heat rate. These are the key performance indicator of past years, including this year also. You can see the plant availability factor and machine availability factor is quite good in this area. We are getting sufficient gas from ONGC, and we could operate machine in optimum manner with best O&M practices. I will share a few of the O&M practices in the subsequent slides. Meanwhile, I will like to share with you that we are very much concerned to improve our heat rate. For that, we used to do online water wash periodically on every 2 or 3 days gap, as well as we used to do offline water wash of the machines in the interval of 3 to 4 months, or whenever we get opportunity to do the offline water wash, and we could achieve the heat rate near to the design heat rate of the machine. Now I will share few of the case studies. Those were challenged for the basically uninterrupted power generation from the plant, or which were related to the reduced downtime of the plant. I will share the case study number 1. Basically, this was related to the steam turbine drain valves passing. Due to drain valve passing, the vacuum was not good in the condenser, and we were having not a good heat rate. And apart from that, we were having problem of the top bottom casing temperature difference, that is near to the alarm value. Basically, this is a common problem in the most of the power plant. We used to see such problems occur. Basically, this occurs due to the raising of the drain valve, and which results in the passing of the drain valve. So, basically, what we understood that there is no any monitoring method by which we can find which valves are passing, so that we can plan a maintenance activity for that valve, or we can close the valve tightly by the manual mode. So what we have done, we have installed temperature element, and that was a thermocouple upstream and downstream of the drain valves to monitor the temperature of the basic skin temperature of the upstream and downstream portion of the valves. Whenever we find that there is some high temperatures coming downstream also, when valves are closed, we understood that these valves are passing, and we could go to the field and tighten the valve by hand, or we can plan the replacement of the valve in the next shutdown if that valve is not closed by hand properly. Use the thermocouple, capacitor cable, and data acquisition system that was installed in the field itself. So this is the figurative basic presentation of the thermocouples which were installed in the valves, and the temperature those are being captured in the data acquisition system. And basically, after installation of this system, we have got very benefit. First is basically we identify which valves is passing. Another, the energy loss is also reduced. Heat rate got improved, and there was improvement in the condenser vacuum. So this was the one improvement that was done by the plant operation maintenance team, which has given very good result in the improvement of the heat rate of the plant. This is another case study. Basically, we observed that one of the pulse valve got opened while the gas turbine was in operation. This pulse valve only come in picture when there is purging of the entrapped gas while the startup. It should not get open while machine is running. So we went to the field and we observed that one solenoid has malfunction. Now this condition has resulted in circumstances when we have to go for the shutdown of the plant, and a shutdown of plant cost very much in terms of heat rate, auxiliary power consumption increase, and basically supply of power obstruction to the beneficial state. So we thought one method to attend this solenoid online while the machine was operating. So basically this pulse valve is installed between SRV and GCV. SRV basically is speed ratio control valve, and this is gas control valve, basically between two important valves. So what we have done, we have given a supply of air from the external source to the valve so that it gets close, and we could remove the solenoid, faulty solenoid, and replace it with the healthy solenoid, and put the this pulse valve in the normal operating mode. So this was basically a job done was very successfully, and which avoided a shutdown of almost 8 to 10 hours. So that was one case study we have done, and now another case study number 3. Basically, one of our unit undergone a major inspection basically of the unit, and we have taken the medium inspection of the steam turbine as well. During medium inspection, we have opened the turbine, LP turbine, and subsequently after the overhaul, we have assembled the turbine with the new gasket. When we went for taking the unit in the line, we have observed that the vacuum of the that steam turbine condenser is more than 0.6 bar absolute, and there is a interlock. If the vacuum is more than 0.6 bar absolute, we can't take basically unit in the service. We can't give the gland steam to get better vacuum. So there is no possibility of opening this steam stop valve. So that was a bottleneck now. So when we went to the field and observed where the leakage is coming, we observed that the parting plane where new gasket was installed after the shutdown, during the shutdown, that was having some problem, and there was air ingress through that parting plane. So now it was a very big problem for us. Now, if we have to go for the unit operation, we have to take shutdown, and that should cost us almost 10 to 15 days. That too in the time of Corona. You can understand during the Corona pandemic, it is very difficult to ask expert to visit the plant and do this type of outage. So what we thought we should do some other method to seal this leakage portion. So what left it for curing for almost 12 hours, and after that we again started the machine and vacuum pulling was started, and we observed that vacuum was coming below 0.4 bar absolute, and that was sufficient for the application of gland sealing. And finally, after gland sealing, the vacuum improved up to 7 bar. So that was very good vacuum to us, and we could put the steam turbine also in the service. As I have already told that our unit can't run without steam turbine service. It can't operate in open cycle. So our complete one unit come in service, and we could generate almost 360 megawatt with such type of arrangement. And our unit is still in the service with such type of arrangement. So that was the experience what we had, and we thought that we should share with you all, so that you can get a clue that if such circumstance come in your plant, you can deal with in this manner. Another case study for basically we are having DLN burners, so DLN 2.0. So during mode changeover, the auxiliary stove valve was getting closed, and that was getting leading to the GT trip due to ASB fault. That was an observation. What we see when we went to the site and we done the root cause analysis, we have seen that there is one instrument air header of 1 inch, and from 1 inch instrument header there is a pipe that is a half-inch header is going to supply 8 numbers of air operated valves, including one auxiliary stove valve, that is a bigger valve. And we could understand that it is not sufficient to catch the requirement of all the 8 valves during the plant operation. So when there is a mode changeover from PPM to PM, that is pyrolytic premix to premix mode, gas control was required to close, and both pneumatic purge valve, that is VA13.1 and VA13.2, was required to open. That was the requirement of the process. During this process, we observed that the air requirement was getting low, and we have to anyhow increase the air supply to these 2 type of valves. So what we have done, we have get another tapping from the 1 inch header of half inch, and we separately supply this instrument air to ASB, and rest of the valves were already having the same air supply from the half inch valve. After this type of arrangement, we have seen that our unit is operating successfully without any such type of tripping off due to ASB fault. So that was one learning, and that this type of condition when air supply to air operated valve get lower, so in that case it can lead to tripping of the machine. So we have done the study of other location also, and we have modified the scheme in other gas turbine also. Now this is another case study. We are having gearbox in cooling tower, and we observed that these gearbox are failing very frequently. And this basically there was no online vibration monitoring system installed on the gearbox. We could have this condition monitoring instrument with us, that is portable type of, and we used to monitor this gearbox vibration, and that was weekly basis. But there was no online vibration monitoring system installed in the gearbox. So we understood that we should have any such type of system which can face the real-time data of the vibration of the this cooling tower gearbox, so that whenever there is slight increasing trend of vibrations there, we can take immediate action, and we could shape the filling of the gearbox. So we have installed online vibration monitoring system on the gearbox, and the reading of the vibration monitoring system was given to the control room engineers, so that they can monitor this gas turbine on real-time basis all the time, and whenever they find the trend of vibration is on increase, they can take corrective action. After that, the failure of the gearbox has been reduced substantially. Now, this is basically another case study. This case study is basically related to the failure of the control card due to high temperature. Basically, that was the basically reason of the failure. We had basically STG IPLP bypass, their control cards were installed nearby to the STG IP LP bypass itself, and it was failing frequently. So we done the root cause analysis, and we have monitored the temperature of this box from laser gun, and we observed that temperature was at very higher side, and we thought that it is a basically main reason of this card's failure. So what we have done, we have shifted this control card cabinet from the STG IP LP bypass system to some other location where temperature was normal, and after that, basically the failure of this control cards has been reduced. You can see this is the initial condition of the control box cabinet. It was near to the IP LP bypass, and here now it is away from this type of high temperature ambient. So now it is working perfectly without any failure. So this is basically one case study when we had a problem with the spare part supplied by the vendor. The basically gas turbine starting mode, that is load commuted inverter, it crank switch 89SS is driven by a belt. There was some problem and belt was basically torn. And when we wanted to replace the torn belt with the spare belt, we observed that the supplied belt was not of the size, and this was a problem now to put the machine in the service. So what we have done, we have decided to put the machine in service in manual mode. So what we have done, this is the steps we have taken. We put the generator neutral grounding switch in open mode and kept it in manual mode. After that, LCI cranking switch 89SS was closed and it was also kept in manual mode. Now start command was given to GT with crank command selected. Then channel 3, which is exclusively used for LCI diode bridge, breaker of that channel was made on and it was kept in auto. After that, we have put one engineer in front of AVR and given him instruction, if this channel 3 of AVR that does not trip after LCI cutoff, it means when AVR fails to cut off the channel 3, in that case he has to put it off. So this was required to ensure that no voltage is in generator bus, to avoid generator bus getting short through LCI cranking switch. So by this mode we could achieve 95% speed of the gas turbine, and LCI cranking switch 89SS was opened manually. A generator neutral grounding switch 89ND was also closed manually and was put in auto. By this method we were able to successfully start the GT. If we have not adopted this method, we would have to wait for the supply of correct timer bed, and that could have taken much time, and we could have put the huge penalty as we were not able to supply power to the beneficial state. So this is the timer belt. You can see this is the normal condition when the timer belt is applied to drive this switch, cranking switch. This was basically damaged. Now this is the case study 8. Basically, one of our gas turbine was gone for long outage, and we have to preserve gas turbine, compressor blades, and other components from corrosion. So what we have done, we have to maintain humidity of the entering air to the gas turbine, because the effect of humidity was basically, if goes more than 80%, it accelerates corrosion rates of the exposed surface, and anyhow if it is more than 30%, there is risk of corrosion, however it is lower. So we have to maintain the humidity of the air entering to the gas turbine below 30%. So what we have done, installed a dehumidifier in the gas turbine, and following arrangement were made for that. We have used planks at the inlet and exhaust side of the turbine. That was basically wooden seat, and it was cut as per geometry of that inlet and exhaust of the gas turbine. Then flexible hose were installed between the dehumidifier to the inlet of the turbine, and the return from the exhaust of the gas turbine was taken back to the dehumidifier. Now, this dehumidifier was used to supply 900 cubic feet per minute of dehumidified air to the inlet of the gas turbine inlet. The dehumidified air passes through the inlet guide vanes, compressor stages, combustion chambers, and turbines, and after passing from these components, it was drawn by the blower of the dehumidifier. Basically, this dehumidifier was consist of silica gel bed, which absorbs moisture from the humid air, along with 6 sets of heaters, which maintain the outlet temperature within the range of 50 to 90 degrees centigrade, and RS in the range of 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. So it was much below than 30% of the humidity, which could cause corrosion to the gas turbine component. So by this method, we preserved gas turbine for a period of 5 months. When we opened the gas turbine, done the basically boroscopy inspection, we found that the condition of the components are quite good, and there were no effect of the corrosion. So that was a method by which we could preserve gas turbine for a month of 5 months, and it could be useful to other organizations for preserving gas turbine also. That's why I wanted to share with you. Now, this is basically case study number 9. This is basically a peculiar sort of condition we are facing here in Agartala. When the plant was erected and commissioned, the water level was sufficient in the Gomati river, which caters water to the plant, and there was no water scarcity last year. But last year we found that the level of Gomati river was getting down during the dry weathers, and it was so low that it could not pump water from the river water intake system to the reservoir, and it was a condition which could cause the forced shutdown of the gas turbine. And we were basically in the emergency condition. We have to anyhow supply water to the reservoir by any mode without wasting much time. So what we have done, we have installed higher capacity electrical pumps in the river beds into the channel, so that four-way level can be maintained. And this was basically very temporary connection. I can show you. It was basically
to interrupt, Mr. Chandra.
Yeah.
Is your screen shared? I think your screen is not visible.
It is not visible since how many times?
I think I just realized it.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Let me try. So basically this is the arrangement by which we have erected a pump in the river, and we have made arrangement for the temporary pipeline, which was supported on the bamboo itself, and by which we are supplying water to the river water intake system, from where we are pumping it to the reservoir. So these were basically diesel engine driven pumps. From these pumps also we were supplying water to the river water intake system, and these were movable. It can be moved from the level where the water is low to the point where the level is adequate, by which this method we could cater the water requirement of the plant, and we could sustain the plant operation during the dry weather also. So this was the last presentation, last slide.
Your PPT is over?
Yeah, my PPT is over.
Okay. So let me ask Mr. Rakesh Gupta to join us now. Can you close your windows, Chandraji? Unscreen, yeah. Mr. Chandra, Mr. Gupta, you can hear us? Yes, Mr. Gupta, you could proceed further. Unmute yourself.
So good afternoon, everybody who have the patience to hear up to this time. I think it's late evening now. So let me introduce first myself. I am Rakesh Gupta, having 35 years experience in thermal power plant. I am REC graduate 1981 from Surat REC, and almost retired from the present organization on extension due to COVID. So I am having the opportunity to share the platform. So I thank you first, Mission Energy, to given me the opportunity for this best thing to express my experience on the stage. So I am a Senior Deputy General Manager at Lanco Anpara Power Limited. I'm sharing my PPT. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible, and you can now say slideshow.
Okay. Okay.
You can go ahead. It's visible now.
Okay. Thank you for your presence. This is the overview of the plant.
Venkat.
I'm just sharing the
Okay.
that we have implemented at 600 megawatt power plant.
Accept कीजिए.
This is the present outlook of the plant looking.
नहीं वो प्रेजेंटेशन अभी चल रहा है ना इसलिए नहीं उसके बाद में देख रहे हैं इधर आ गए सिग्नल आ गया.
Sir, any problem?
No problem. You can go ahead. Everything is well.
Okay. So let me brief the project features. This is the first phase 2 bidding in India in year 2003, awarded to ICI UPRV panel in September 2006. The capacity is 2 into 600. The primary fuel source is coal linkage from NCL mines, that is Khadia extension, and the water source is Riand reservoir, and power evacuation is a single commissioned line Anpara Unnao 765 kV plus 5 numbers of 400 kV lines through Anpara BTPS, and the coal transportation is from mine is through MGR system, and as disposal system have both the facilities of dry and wet system. Our EPC contractor is Lanco Infratech, and the total BTG supplier is Dongfeng Electric Company, China. The project was started on 24th November 2008, and unit number 1 of 600 megawatt was first synchronized on 19th March 2011. The unit number 2 was first synchronized on 30th September 2011. The unit 1 COD took place on 10th December 2011, and COD took place on 18th January for unit number 2, January 2012. I'm having very few things, but very specific things that generally I have not seen any of the discussions so far. This is what I am sharing. This was the first project that we have to cover for installing the wind wall in cooling towers. Actually, the units that are provided for generation purpose are having certain potentials and certain disadvantages or certain lack in the designs itself. So during our study, it was first observed that CT airflow measurement was less than design. So this was a great mistake. I will not say it is a mistake, but it was the problem that nobody took care while commissioning stages. So after due study that we did and found the reason for why this airflow is less. So after due study, in consultation with OEM, the modification was suggested to install the wind wall for achieving designed CT airflow. The problem was that due to the cross flow of the air was bypassing and short circuiting in the cooling towers. That's why the actual flow was not coming to the design value, and that was ultimately affecting the basin temperature, and in turn it was converted in the lesser vacuum in the summer, particularly summer season. So the idea was first to how to achieve this. The wind wall was installed in first one CT fan, and the actual flow was measured. The impact was encouraging. So this we multiplied with all the CT fans thereafter. It was a costly affair at that time, but the result was improved CT basin temperature, which in turn improved our condenser vacuum and ultimately the heat rate impact. If you see the first left side figure, before it was like this. There was a cross ventilation, you can say, and in the event of cross flow of the air. And after that wind wall, there was a disciplined flow through the CT fans, and the result was through the measurement actually we did after doing this. So it was a particularly partitioned from both the sides where the air is entering. So air current was now disciplined to flow a regular flow path to pass through the fans and the actual carrying away the heat from the hot water. So this was result that we see. If you see, these were the readings taken for different CT fans before wind wall and after wind wall installation. If you see, you will find that 2-3 important points. L/G ratio was reduced. The ECT effectiveness was increased, and the cold basin temperature was down. So these 3 things were very important. And actually, we come to know when first it was in the summer season, after running all the CT fans, we were not able to get the CT inlet temperature. Sorry, CW inlet temperature. So these are the results that we know. Actually, before this, I will just describe you that originally these fans were provided with the GRP fans. And once the energy conservation, as all other power stations did, and the response we got from the manufacturer and the initiatives taken by other power stations, we first transferred these fans to the FRP fans. So the kilowatt loading per fan was reduced by 8 kilowatt. So that was first achievement that we did. So this has created the potential or the margin on the motor side. So the loading on the fans reduced. But we utilized this margin by increasing the blade angles to keep the current same, but the outflow, the airflow to the maximum. Earlier in the different season, we were changing the blade angles. In the winter, we need to minimize the angle to minimize the airflow, and in the summer we need to increase the angle to increase the flow, so to get the advantage. But after doing this, we have only monitored the airflow as well as the maximum angle and the maximum loading on the fan, that is amperes on the fan, was within the design range. And ultimate effect of the CT basin temperature that was going to the CW inlet, and the effect was encouraging. So this has improved the this was improved. Haji, boliye.
We lost your.
Okay.
No, your screen share is off.
So we have to wait. Then I'll just call my IT person because.
In the meantime, let me take the presentation from Atul.
Okay. Okay, you may.
Atul, you are comfortable in giving the presentation from Mr. Venkataraman?
Yes, sir.
Now start the PowerPoint presentation.
Good evening, sir. And a special thanks to Mission Energy for creating such interactive session. And sir, I am Atul Kumar Yadav from JSW Energy, Badmer. presenting case study, the best maintenance practices adopted to overcome from the refractory failures in CFBC boilers. And general overview of JSW Energy business is JSW Energy, a part of JSW Group, having generation capacity about 40 to 41 megawatt, 4,241 megawatts through thermal, hydro, and solar, of which 1080 megawatt by 8 into 135 megawatt lignite-based thermal power plant in Badmer, Rajasthan, 4 into 300 megawatts from Ratnagiri, Maharashtra thermal power station, and 860 megawatts from Vijayanagar, Karnataka, by 2 into 130 megawatts and 2 units of 300 megawatts each. About hydro, 1091 megawatts from Baspa and Kachambang to Himachal Pradesh, and 10 megawatt from mainly rooftops and ground mounted at all generation locations. Except this, one wind project of 860 megawatts and one hydro project of 240 megawatts at Kuthel is under project stage. About JSW Energy Badmer. Badmer plant is situated in the western part of Rajasthan, having 8 units of 130 megawatts capacity of lignite-based CFBC technology. For the plant, the water supplied from the IGNP, Indira Gandhi Nahar Pariyojana. It is situated 180 kilometers apart from the plant. And here is 8 units, all are CFBC. About CFBC boiler, it consists a large quantity of refractories, which is about 1650 metric ton per boiler. The failure of refractories in cyclone, in the cyclone area, and MRD, material recycling device, somewhere it is known as a UC. And CID, COD is one of the major cause of boiler outages. The failure of refractory in first pass at platen superheaters, secondary earth openings and corners, followed by the also tube expose and erosion and leakages, also one of the prime causes of unit outages. In this session, we are going to represent what are the major refractory failures in the cyclone, tube leakages at the furnace corners. Refractory failures of PLSH, platen superheaters and reheaters, SA nozzles openings, failure of second pass, reheaters and seal boxes, refractory failures at target balls, cyclones and U-seals, as well as the best application and maintenance repair practices be adopted. In the year 2016-17, the refractory failures, the refractory failure was so high that the mean time between failure was just 12 months. As well, due to the high volume of repairs and maintenance, the MTTR was also quite high, and it was 40 to 45 days. And it has been targeted. It has been targeted to 24-month MTBF and 20 days MTTR by the change change of maintenance practices. The maintenance practices for the cyclone roof. Cyclone roof having a large refractory structures, which is about the 100 metric tons to 120 metric tons, and having area is about 100 meters squares. And it is also an overhead refractory structure. So due to the such overhead refractory structure during the conventional casting, the chance of sagging of such refractory, and also the OEM has been supplied us the design 200 mm of calcium silicate boards, which is not so stable at elevated temperature. That's why it goes fuse whenever it come in contact down the cutting of anchors, and it will let down the refractory failures. So to overcome of these problems, a frequent failure of refractory, we adopted the gunning method over the conventional casting method. It is a faster application over the conventional, and first we have used such in the unit 2 as a gunning. Then we found that it is a better solution over the conventional casting, as it is a faster application. There is no hot spots and significant lower skin temperature and no refractory issues after 2 years of operation. Then we adopted the short treating. It comes in the latest compared to the gunning method, and also it is applied in the unit 8, and it is serving also better compared to the conventional casting. Furnace corner refractory modifications. Actually, according as per the hard.
Mr. Reddy, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
You stopped your slide?
No. Sir, it is not visible?
No.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
There's a connectivity issue because you guys are all from the plant. So the connectivity issue is still interrupting.
Yes, sir, please. Yeah, I'm doing. So no presentation. Yes, sir. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is now I have to come on the furnace corner refractory modification. Actually, the word has been come due to the high erosion in furnace corner due to hot bed materials, fluidization, and falling from the corners. That's why it has been reported that there was a sharp erosion patterns in the corners, and it is a higher leakages in the corner sides. To overcome of that, it has been decided that to cover up the corners 3 tubes by a plastic refractory, because plastic refractory has more abrasion resistance strength, and also the SOX. It is a it has good stable against the sulfur reactions. So we applied the plastic refractory at the corner tubes by covering 3 tubes. These are the images In the first image, we can see the anchor, and another images we can see the refractory application. And after that, after 3 years, the images are that. And it has been also, the result was so good that after the modification, not a single leakages were reported at the same location in the applied areas also. And the number of leakages drastically goes down. This was the, and another modification at PLSS. Actually, in the Platon superheaters and reheaters, the bottom was initially it was made by the plastic refractories, and it has been supplied by the OEM. So due to the heating of the hot material from bottom side, so this refractory has been eroded frequently, and subsequently it erodes the tubes too. That lead the unit outages. To overcome of this problem, we have applied the silicon carbide based refractory, which is a highly erosion resistance material, and also with lesser porosity to avoid the erosion also, and give the better thermal conductivity. To apply silicon carbide refractory through the casting method. By this, this became stable, and also the leakages in the bottom of the Platon superheaters was almost zero nowadays. Another issue was at the secondary year. The secondary year nozzles. It is a secondary year used for the combustion combustions supplied in the furnace through 23 openings and nozzles made across the furnaces. These nozzles, due to the high velocity of air passing in the erosion, an erosion occurred around the nozzle area, and it eroded the refractory, as well as it again opened the or exposed the tubes, boiler tubes. When a boiler tube is exposed, and due to continued heating of hot bed material, it got also eroded, and it will create the leakages too, and let down the unit breakdown. So, and to modify this, we again designed the anchors to extend the refractory to refractory at the surrounding areas. Nowadays, there are no leakages in the PLSS area, ASN nozzles area. Another thing, the sealing of second pass. In a second pass, there are cold reheater coils that entered in the HRA area, heat recovery area, and final superheaters tubes, and primary superheaters tube, also inlets and outlets in the second pass area. This is with the joint of HRA ball and tubes. There was an opening that has been closed by the through seal boxes, which is made of the refractory. But due to the continued contraction and shrinkage and expansion of refractory, there was a gap created, and that gaps allowed the hot air ingresses that led the ID fans loading, and that increased the ID fans loading. To resolve this continuous issue and losses of APC and losses of ID fans current, we have invited Hasle Refractories Denmark for the customized solution to sealing of these joints, these interaction joints. So they have supplied initially for one unit. Then we locally developed an air seal technology, which has been applied to all 8 units. And now there is not a minor leakages from this. However, this is across length, and it is save about 200 to 50 amperes. Yes, a free cast refractory. Actually, the CFBC boilers are consist of a high volume of refractories. It is about the 1650 metric tons refractory in a unit. So there are highly failures of refractory and high work on the refractories. So our conventional casting of the refractory it has some major issues. That is, its installation is so slow and leads the MTTR, and it is quite tough to maintain the quality because it is a highly man-oriented work. So adequate care cannot be.
Can we take Rakesh Gupta ji now?
Yes, sir. Ready. Yes, ready, sir.
Gupta sir, you need to select the second option while you select the PPT. Should I call you back on the mobile? Yeah, this is right. You
Yes,
could proceed.
now still, sir?
You could proceed now.
Okay, sir. So there are some issues in the maintenance of conventional refractory. That installation is so low, so it increased the MTTR, and it is a completely man-oriented work. So an adequate care cannot be taken at every installation time. So quality is also so poor. It takes additional time and cost for the refractory die-out. And manual operation, it is a manual installation. That's why the wastage of material also high. And housekeeping also very poor. After that, the average life of a conventional casted refractory is just about 1.5 years to 2 years. So to overcome all the problems, and precast refractory blocks concept has come into the picture. The precast refractory is nothing; it is just prefabricated. It is just prefabricated refractory blocks that has been fabricated in the completely controlled condition in the workshop, where adequate waters, adequate mixing, and all quality parameters has been maintained in the workshop. There we fabricate the precast. The fabrication of precast is the process is on the screen. For that, we mix the refractory material with water in the mixture, then pour this material into the molds and place these molds on the vibrating table, and then provided vibration about 2 minutes. After that, leave the molds for the curing of 24 hours. After 24 hours, the second stage curing has been done by removing the precast from the molds and put into the racks. The anchors arrangement for the precast holding has been also on the screen. The L-type anchor, which is used to connection with the precast with the cell, and O and U for the precast arrangements. This is the schematic arrangement of the precast installation. For that, we can see the block placing side, where we just build the AL anchors on the metal plates and put the precast, and O anchors welded with the L anchors that can be seen in the anchor building stages. By doing this, we make the blocks row like that show in the block row placing, and by every row the construction has been completed like a shows in the schematic shows in the refractory structure construction. In a backup layer, we fill with the insulation for the thermal insulation to the metal plates. In this images, these precast can be used widely for the. Initially, it has been designed for the target areas, but now with some modification, it can also use for the cyclone area, for U-seal area, and crossover ducts and cyclone inside cyclone inlets inside walls too. For U-seal, it is a very complex shape, and it is very hard to provide the conventional casting in the complex areas. So that's why the precast designed for the U-seal. There is also very high failures. There is also very high failure of refractories in U-seal. So the precast designed for the U-seals. For this, the refractory lining. By the changing of refractory in U-seal and through the precast over the conventional casting, the estimated business impact is about 3.28 lakh crores in a year. This is the images, this is the installation images, and the second images after 2 years of operation. Not any failure has been reported since last 2 years in the unit. And so this image, this wide image of the cyclone, where also we provided the precast in the cyclone. It is the benefits of the precast in the cyclone area, the major reduction in the MTTR, that is about 1/5 of the conventional casting. And also there is no failure has been reported since it has been installed. So the benefit of precast for the development is the installation and repair with the reasonable investment in the cost. The precast refractory blocks lining improve the profitability in the mean of enhance in the life, in the mean of low maintenance cost, and the technology of precast blocks lining improve drastically the reliability. We are first in the world who is using precast in CFBC boilers, and it is also indigenously developed in our works. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Atul.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now we will, we lost Gupta ji to give the presentation. So I'll request Gupta to come forward and start his presentation.
Yes, just time.
Atul ji, just close the window.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Is it visible now?
Yes, you can start the slideshow.
Okay, so we completed the project 1 for installing the wind wall in the cooling towers. And the second project that we took is a flue gas duct modification from air preheater to ID fan inlet. The study, it was first made that there was a pressure drop across the duct from air preheater to ID fan and the design values were showing something and actual values were showing something. So we identified the area where this actual pressure drop is, and there was a problem of the flue gas distribution in the duct also. So CFD modeling and analyzing exercise was carried out, and from that it came out that certain areas where the velocity is less, there is accumulation of the flue gas, and that was affecting your pressure drop. And certain areas where the airflow was not properly distributed, the duct was need to be redesigned, and the modification need to be carried out. So this exercise was done, and after post modification, again the pressure survey was carried out and realized the reduction in pressure drop across the duct, and ID fan power consumption was greatly reduced. This is the thing that we did in the duct. So on the basis of the recommendations from the CFD, the duct was modified, and proper diverter plates for distribution of the flue gas in each duct was carried out, and the entire thing was maintained with the cost implementation also. This is the result. If you see from air filter inlet to ID fan outlet, the green line shows the design values, and the blue lines where when we took this exercise the actual values. So it was far away from the design. Now after modification or modification of this duct, the diverter plates were provided, and again this same point, at the same points the pressure was measured, and it shows that there is the improvement in the it is near to the design values. So the entire exercise was carried out for the power consumption, because this took time of 20 days outage. So in that most of other things were also been carried out in the boiler. So the total pressure drop reduction was improved, and we identified that this reduction was the total ampere reduction in the ID fan, and we distributed, and we found that approximately 810 kilowatt power was reduction. A huge saving in the APC. This was the major project that we did for the APC in the draft system. The payback period we calculated, it was 6 months. This is the project number 3, a very important project. This is the installation of chiller in the vacuum pump sealing system. It's a very interesting point. Actually, we try to improve the pump performance, and the vacuum pump is a very critical equipment or part of the system in the vacuum, and realize its importance during the peak summer. So in this project, we have taken this pump and we recorded all the parameters of the running pump. But in the running pump, what we found that the sealing water temperature, that was very away from the design values as per the OEM. And the OEMs also says that if there is a change in the service liquid as a direct influence in the vacuum pump capacity. So during summer, this temperature was reaching up to 36 degrees against the design of 32 degrees. So as the temperature increasing, it was reducing the capacity of the pump. So pump was not able to perform its maximum capacity at this particular temperature because of sealing water temperature deviated from its design values. Hence, to maintain this design water temperature of this vacuum pump, a chiller was installed. So this chiller was designed for the capacity of the still water flow, and temperature was achieved as per the OEM temperature. And this impact was seen for the vacuum improvement by 0.2 kPa. If you see the chiller panel, the inlet temperature was 36 and it was maintaining the 30-degree temperature just below the design value of 32 to compensate this. So when we were giving a design still water temperature, we were able to get the design capacity of the vacuum pump and overall improvement in the vacuum pump for the period where these temperatures are higher than the design. So these days means in the peak summer, this temperature, all plants are having this vacuum problem. But to improve this vacuum, if we work on the vacuum pump still water temperature, this effect we can realize. These are some data from the vacuum pump, running vacuum pump for the load and vacuum improvement. There is a slight increment in the power consumption due to the chiller, but it was well compensated against the improvement in the vacuum by 0.69 kPa under two different conditions, that without chiller and with chiller vacuum pump running. So the main objective was to see how many days we have to run this and in what minimum time we can achieve the payback. So the overall cost is about 12.4 lakhs. There was an excess power consumption of 26 kilowatt, but the overall improvement in the vacuum and for 100 days running, the payback period was less than 2 months. So this was one of the great achievement in a vacuum system for improving heat rate that we have. These are some glimpses of our power plant that this award we Award of Honor from British Safety Council in 2017 ANPL received. This is 20th Green Tech Safety Award 2018 in gold category also we received. This was first prize in National Energy Conservation Award 2014 in TPP sector. And first prize from the UP NEDA for Energy Conservation 2018 also we received. Again in 2017 we received the second award from the UP NEDA for Energy Conservation. This is the first award from the Mission Energy in 2018 we received in TPP category. This is again we received in the last year, that is 2018 from Mission Energy. And this is the Frame Excellence 2019 Award for Energy Efficiency in Platinum category. Thank you. These are the achievements from LNPL side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And I thank all the speakers for sharing their case studies, which is a ready reference for the other participants to learn from you. Now, I will request if there are any questions from the audience, they could raise hands. I am ready in the mode of raising the hands to take questions for the speakers.
Yes, ready.
I probably will give about 2 minutes wait time to receive the questions. If I don't receive, then probably we'll move to the next sessions of award ceremony. So, seeing no questions here, I would further end the sessions and go to the next sessions of the award ceremony and take it forward. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause for the speakers? I could see the claps coming in, thumbs up coming in. Thank you so much.